this way to the rhythm section area. This is where usually the bass and guitar hang out here. The piano room in here. If you go on the other side, you can see the monitor there where the musicians can see each other. There's 14 cameras around the studio, so everybody gets to see everybody, and I get to do a live video. And then this is sort of set up as a little rehearsal area as well. Everything's ready to go. We have a few mics down here, and there's lots more upstairs, but here's the monitor, the drum booth. Everybody gets to see Pro Tools on the screen. Then this is the machine room where all the noisy stuff is. Back of the computers and the wall. Supplies for down here. I'll show you this little thing. This is where the computer is for Pro Tools and whatever, and a duplicator. So that all ties in. And drum booth, which is a floaty room inside the room. So on this floor, there's a pretty good visual communication without camera, but there's also the cameras to support that. And then oftentimes above here is where the singers work. I always like to do a rhythm section with a live, at least a scratch vocal. So this is the vocal room. Speaking of Columbia Records, that's a vintage Columbia Records Neumann U67 tube mic. So I don't think there's any mic that really sounds better than this, at least in the tests I've done. So they get to see the computer and whatever's going on in Pro Tools, and then there's a picture-in-picture for them to see each other with. So you have lots of visual communication. There's a couple of cue systems, and a bunch of guitars and microphones here. There's one mic collection. I'm going to have enough gear to do 40 channels live simultaneously. I've had a 22-piece orchestra in the room, so spread out in the building. Then this is another booth and video suite. This is better put something on video here so you can see some action, but there's the client monitor, there's Avid and Final Cut here, and duplication gear, and old live video sessions from, these are all recording sessions from over the years here at the studio. So every session that I do is documented with some reference to what they did. Lots of YouTube fodder there. Mm-hmm. And then again, you have a camera over here and the monitors I've had sax players in here, or sections of background singers, horn sections, and so on. I realized that I've done over 31 LPs on vinyl. So I just got all these frames and framed everything. And then here's my singing group from the 50s and early 60s. We used to do Palisades Park shows and lots of rock and roll shows back then, and there's the trophy we won. This is when we sang with a 16-piece orchestra on 86th Street at the Tuxedo Ballroom. A little bit of my kids here. And then, let's see, can I make this get brighter in here? So this is the screening room. Which also gets ensembles are in here. Let's see if I can get the lights up forward. For a second, turn them off so you can see the screen now a little bit. It's pretty alright, right?
I didn't even see that.
Then we got the karaoke system. So this is where we karaoke and party. There's PA speakers up there. And then also, you know, it's video is tied in. Look, you're on camera.
You got cameras all over this place, man.
Yeah. There's at least 14 cameras, so. Oh.
Hey, can we go up to the wall of records? I want to ask you about a couple.
This? Oh.
Well, yeah. Tell us about. I see some gold records.
Well, there's a
here.
Spectified album up on that wall.
Oh, speaking of Spectified, didn't you engineer that?
I
record?
might have done something on that. Yeah.
Tell us about what's up here.
Well, let's see.
Greg Allman.
Greg Allman's Laid Back album. The same producer that I did the Tom Rush album with, which was that first Dolby album and one of the first albums I did for Columbia Records, was the arranger for Greg Allman's album.
This had Midnight Rider on it.
Midnight Rider, Queen of Hearts, a lot of great, beautiful stuff. And Johnny Sandlin was the producer of this, and he started the album and he got a little cold feet about continuing it on his own, and he wanted to come up to New York and work at the record plant.
Mm-hmm.
And he hired Ed, and Ed hired me to engineer all the strings and horns and vocals and overdubs and mixing it. So I mixed a few of the cuts, Queen of Hearts and Midnight Rider, and I actually mixed the whole thing, and I think Johnny remixed a couple of things.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the ZZ Top Fandango
Yeah.
album. And this is Manhattan Transfer's album, which I actually didn't work on, but I was their first sound guy, so they,
On the road.
on the road, before they even got, I mean, they got the deal, I like to think, because of how great the sound was
Yeah.
for them. So they gave that to me, and thanks for that effort. And there's my free ride.
Oh, yeah.
And then up there is an honorable mention, top 10% presented to Jim Reeves for Going Out of My Head, Vocal Division Pop Top 40 category. Award in 1989 for my vocals. There's some pictures of Patti Smythe from Scandal that I worked with in the beginning. And
Yeah.
these are all DVDs that I produced.
Uh-huh.
And these are all albums. Most of these CDs were done in this studio, and a lot of them were done in New York. I don't even have my own albums. I have about 6 or 7 albums of my own.
You produced the Hip, Thighs, and Buttocks video, John?
I produced the music for it
Okay.
with Don Pearson from the OJs.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I love the OJs.
The only thing they made the mistake was they put her speaking so much louder than the music. You can't turn it up loud enough to hear the music, because every time she speaks it'll be so loud, which I thought was dumb for an exercise video. But the music was good. Joe Ely's coming this month.
Yeah, with the Flatlanders.
We did the Lone Star and places like that in New York.
Right.
There's the Silver Bike we heard a little bit of before. And there's my kids with on my Atari computer with the video capture. And there's one of my first studios. There's some girls from space.
Hey, there's a record up on your staircase. It's one of my favorite records of all time that I wanted to ask you about.
Okay.
Mike Bloomfield, Al Cooper, Stephen Stills, Super Session.
Right, and Harvey Brooks.
And Harvey Brooks, right. Who was the drummer on that? Do you remember? So you did the quad mix on this?
I did the quad mix on it.
And you were one of the first engineers to mix in quadraphonic?
People tell me I shouldn't tell anybody that, but yeah.
Oh, yeah?
They go like, really, quadraphonic was such a bomb. But I am amazed at how many quadraphonic collectors there are out there, because I get emails from people all the time who have told me how much fans they are of my quad mixes.
Jeff Beck.
Yeah, now Jeff Beck, when I spoke to him about this, I said, how'd you like the quad version? He says, I didn't know there was a quad version. So, but I had painstakingly taken, I mean, there's a lot of solos in here that were compiled from 6 or 7 tracks of guitars that were all edited together to make the solo up.
Yeah.
Probably shouldn't tell that to the fans out there, you know.
All Jeff Beck fans ignore that, please.
Right. Well, I got some interviews with Tio Macero about Miles Davis that probably people don't want to hear about either.
Cool.
But there's Dreams.
Yeah.
There's another album I did. There's no credit on that album.
Right. They don't even tell you who the band is, though.
Right. And there's the Tony Kosnick album. A lot of these got water damage, so the artwork is a little distorted on it. But that's the one with Peter Asher.
One of the records I wanted to ask you about was Lou Reed Berlin.
Yeah.
Which was a pretty influential record in modern rock history. And you mixed that?
Yeah, I mixed that. Did all the overdubs to it. I did not do the vocals. The vocals were done in Europe. He was over in Europe for that, and then they sent the tapes back. And when I met him, actually, at the Manhattan Transfer Show, you know, we talked about it, and I said, you know, the first guy I ever did an album with that I didn't meet.
Really?
And he said, which one? I said, Berlin. He says, it's my favorite album.
Wow.
So that was cool. Ainsley Dunbar on drums. And, you know, he was the word then with drums.
Yeah.
And then I think the next explosive drummer around was Russ Kunkel. Got that huge drum sound.
Yeah.
And there's John Cale from his band.
From the Velvet Underground, yeah.
He was here. He played here a few years ago.
Yeah, you told me the story.
Yeah.
Just didn't want to talk to you.
Right.
Schmuck.
Well, he was just too much in a hurry.
Oh, okay.
Now, Sly, I was booked a lot with Sly. Sly would call me up and say, hey, Jam, man, can we come in on Saturday at Columbia Records? You know? I'd say, yeah, sure, man. Well, Columbia Records paid double scale for Saturdays.
Yeah.
And if you worked past 3 hours, you got an automatic 8 hours. And I would wait around for 2-3 hours, and he'd call up and say, hey, Jim, I'm not going to make it. So I got a lot of 8-hour double time days and never worked with him.
Oh, okay.
Except for this mix.
Yeah.
So, and I had an engineer on some of these things too, because I was producing these as well. And my engineer brings the tracks to me. He goes, "These tracks suck." I said, "Are you kidding me?" I said, "These are already proven hit records, and you're saying the tracks suck."
Yeah.
So go figure. And this was this is a watercolor and magic marker that my girlfriend made, and she was going to McCartney.
Nice.